Hello, I'm JC Callaway, and this is my Who Is cell phone conversation.
JC, how you doing, buddy? This is Andy.
Coach Andy Walker, how you doing?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm good. Very well, thank you. I'm glad that you decided to join me on my show, Who Is Conversation with JC Callaway. I really appreciate it. We'd like to find out, although a lot of people already know, who is Coach Andy Walker? Let's start with the first question. Where are you originally from?
From Phoenix, Arizona.
When did you start playing golf?
I wish I could tell you that. I think I've been playing ever since I was probably in diapers. Competitively, my first tournament was when I was 5 years old. So I don't ever remember learning how to play. It's just always something that I've done.
What are some of the experiences you had as a junior golfer?
I'd say my most fond experience as a junior golfer is I had a really good run as an AJG All-American, and I won over 70 local, state, and national tournaments. But I think the two things that stand out the most was probably the time that I got to share, traveling with my parents around the country and going to new places, playing tournaments, and a lot of the experiences that I got to share with my dad in particular, who passed about a year and a half ago. So, those experiences and times that we got to travel and do things. It wasn't really so much about the golf shots or the tournaments won, but just, being able to spend time and explore new things with him. And then I guess, what kind of got me hooked on golf was the first tournament I played when I was 5 was the 8 and under or 8 to 10 division of the Arizona Pee Wee Open. And they let me play, I was a little bit younger because I guess I was, decent enough to get in the competition. And I won by like 19 shots. And on the front of the Arizona Republic, there was the sports section. There was a picture of me with a trophy that was bigger than myself, and it says, Walker wins wire to wire. And so all of my dad's friends nicknamed me Wire to Wire, and so they would call me that all the time. And from then I was hooked on golf.
I read in your bio that Bill Dickey was your mentor. What did you learn from Bill Dickey regarding leadership when you were a junior golfer?
So Mr. Dickey and my dad were good friends. Matter of fact, my mom and Mrs. Dickey, Alice, were really good friends. My dad introduced Alice to Bill, and so I grew up in a community with a lot of influential and successful black men, that all of them, including Mr. Dickey, showed us that there's kind of another way. You didn't have to kind of like Biggie said, you sling a crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot, right? They didn't have to do those things. They were guys that were, in the chiefs of police. These were guys that were businessmen. They were real estate. They were politicians. They were public figures and people that just did, really well in the private sector. And so, just growing up with that influence around me, I think I saw so many positive black men around me in my life that, I didn't know any other way.
Wow, that's really powerful. And I think that's what every young black male needs, to have that type of mentorship and be around those type of strong black male figures in leadership positions. Did you play on a high school golf team?
Yeah, definitely. Played high school at Camelback High School. Played all 4 years. The thing about junior golf is high school golf really doesn't have a weigh in on much importance in getting recruited for college or the scene of junior golf, but it was definitely something to kind of keep you busy and, kind of play for your school and still kind of show that pride. But yeah, played 4 years of high school golf.
Are you saying that high school golf doesn't get a player ready for college golf?
No, I'm not really going to say it doesn't get you ready. I mean, the competition isn't as fierce, but I would say as college coaches, we do our recruiting for more of the summer tournaments, the state junior golf associations, your local junior tours, and, national junior tours like the AJGA or Hurricane, stuff like that. So I'm not going to say it doesn't get you ready, because all competition is good competition. But I don't think there's a real focus on the next level from the high school level of golf. Like, you're not going to go out to a state championship and see 20 or 30 college coaches there unless there's somebody extra special playing there in particular that's going to, probably go to like a Power 5 school. But, I think it does play a role, in your development. But high school golf, the best junior golfers in the country are not all playing high school golf.
If a player that's playing high school golf wanted to get your attention, what would be the best actions for him to take in order to get you to look at him?
We're going to know who those players are probably beforehand. Sending us their resume, swing video, future schedule. High school, it's tough because unlike college, in high school you play matches. In college, you don't play matches. In the high school, you play matches where there's like 2 or 3 schools there at the most. They're playing 9-hole matches, and sometimes it's 18 hole matches. So, and usually the field isn't really strong. There's going to be 1 or 2 decent players in the field, and then it's kind of made up of kids that more do it for a hobby. Whereas if you go to a junior tournament, everybody there is playing competitive, and in some instances you had to qualify or get invited to play in those events. So usually what they'll do is, they'll send a resume out, they'll send swing video, and then, kind of a clips of what their summer schedule is going to look like. Now, it doesn't mean we don't do matches at all. I mean, there's a kid here in Richmond that I'm going to go watch play next week in a high school match. But it's because I heard that he had such a good summer and he's been playing high-level events, and they're going to happen to be playing a high school match at where, our college team practices. So I'll be out there already, so I'm going to go watch him play 9. But, there's only so much you're going to really learn from watching somebody play, a 9-hole match.
When did you have aspirations to become a professional?
Since I was a young kid and sitting there with the family and watching the PGA Tour on TV and watching guys that, I think it was important that guys that looked like me, right? I used to watch, Calvin Pete and Jim Thorpe and Lee Trevino and these guys out there playing, and know that I had something in common with them. When I was 14, 15 years old, I got a chance to play with some of the best players in the world that were PGA Tour players, there in Phoenix, that they used to play out at McCormick Ranch and Papago and all these places. And, going out when you're 14, 15 years old and being able to shoot the same scores as guys that are winning on tour, kind of lets you validate even more that, it validates even more that you can play on that next level. So, I think my whole life I always wanted to play on tour, but when I was a early kind of teen, it was when I knew that I had the game to play out there.
What did you learn about coaching while competing on the Pepperdine University Golf Team and being a member of the 1997 National Champions?
Great question, because I think how I coach now is attributed a lot to what I did in college as a college player. I had a really good college career, like you said, that culminated in being the first African American to be on an NCAA championship team, which means a lot, not just then, but for the future going forward. But there's one thing that stands out, and I tell a story to every team that I coach, is, one of my teammates was Jason Gore, who's now kind of number 2 in charge of the PGA Tour. He's a PGA Tour winner. He's the all-time, victories, had the most wins on Korn Ferry Tour. And when we won in 97 at NCAA, Jason had a 2-shot lead to win the individual title as well. And along with the win at NCAA's individually comes probably 7 tour starts, large contracts. You're going to be automatically, a first-team All-American. You're going to be on the Walker Cup team, which he got some of those anyways, but he didn't know at that time. And he made 7 on the last hole. It was a par 5 and missed getting in the playoff by a shot. It was live on ESPN the whole week that when we played. And the first thing he did when he made that 7 is he looked at me, and it was on camera, and he said, "Did we win?" he didn't worry about the individual aspect of what he just done. Now, later that night, we talked about it after we had celebrated and everything. He's like, I can't believe I just blew the golf tournament individually. But at that time, the first thing he said was, did we win? And so when I recruit and when I coach, I'm looking for players that have that team mentality first. And they're not selfish, and it's not just about them, but it's about the team performing for something bigger than yourself. And so I would say that's one of the biggest influences that I learned while playing in college that has affected how I coach now.
How did your professional coaching career get started?
So when I started coaching tour players because when I was playing out there, I was always a student of the game and really in how to work our way around the golf course pretty well. I worked with a lot of players on their swings. I had some great mentors. Jeff Donovan was my swing coach for a long time. Then I worked with Rob Stokey, and I worked with a couple other guys out there. And it just kind of naturally happened that my relationship, when I started teaching the tour players, I wasn't quite done playing. I didn't think. I still had some status, but I was going through an injury. So a lot of the players would just come and they would say, hey, can you work with me on game planning or the biomechanics or the mental side and stuff? And so it kind of morphed into me teaching and working with players, which then in turn kind of morphed into me coaching in college. And so, I think at that time, I don't know if I was, I wasn't planning on teaching full time. I was going to go back and play. And then obviously, 1 year turns into 3, turns into 5, and here we are 11 years after, I've played my last, tour event. And so it just kind of progressively happened that way. And I think the impact I can make on this game probably is going to be more felt on the players that I coach and develop and mentor than the golf shots that I actually hit.
As a professional, what were some of the lessons you learned about high-level competitive golf?
How you hit it, chip it, and putt it has zero bearing on your golf score. How you hit it, chip it, and putt it only has bearing on how you should plan to score. And the best players in the world are going to have a better plan and be more aware of what they do and don't do. Perfect example right now is, on the LPGA Tour, you have Nelly Korda, who's going off right now. She's won like 4 or 5 in a row. Textbook swing. I mean, it is just gorgeous aesthetically, rhythmically, mechanically, everything that you'd want. And then on the opposite side, you have Scotty Scheffler, right? It looks like he's, sea walking while he's hitting a golf shot. I mean, the dude's doing everything that you would not teach someone to do, but he's aware of what he does. And so obviously he's the best player on the planet right now. So, golf swings don't win tournaments. Players win tournaments. And I think I see a lot of forums online. I hear a lot about it in teaching, different stuff, that everyone's so worried about a philosophy of how to swing the golf club when none of those matter to the best players in the world. The best players in the world find ways to shoot scores and to repeat something and, under pressure and, the mechanics. The best swingers of the golf club are probably playing a mini tour event right now, and the best players in the world just left Harvard Town. So I would think, one of the things that I learned most about, high-level competitive golf is awareness of self, what your tendencies are, where they come from, why they're there, how they're going to come out, what brings them out in all the situations. And then 2 is being emotionally enough aware to have an answer for everything that comes out and pulling off the golf shots when you need it.
Wow, that's great, knowledgeable information. What's the main difference between coaching junior players and college players?
I don't know. I think they're a little bit older in college, so they're a little bit more experienced, as well. And I think with age comes a knowledge of this game if you're open to learn. I love coaching junior players because it's such innocent golf, right? There's nothing other in it than they're playing for a trophy. And so as the levels get higher, there's a little bit more invested. You have a little bit more emotional baggage that goes along with it. But at the same time, golf is golf. I mean, a good junior player is going to shoot 68, and a good college player is going to shoot 68, and a good tour player is going to shoot 68. So it's not tons different other than the older they get, college players are bombing the ball right now. I mean, their swing speeds are through the roof, how far they're hitting it. And so, me adjusting, if I'm working with a junior player, the yardages and stuff like that are going to change. But as a whole, golf is golf. At the end of the day, you still got to get the ball in the hole, at every age. So I would say the biggest difference would definitely be the length that the guys are hitting the ball.
What did you learn from being a contestant on the show Big Break Ireland?
Yeah, so it's funny. Most people go on Big Break to earn their big break because they hadn't played there yet. I did it after my career, which was a little bit different. What did I learn? I learned that I do not like Ireland. How about that? It's too cold there. Golf courses are halfway raggedy. But in all seriousness, I learned that at that time I hadn't picked up a club in probably a year and a half. I was coming off an injury. I wasn't playing, and I could still go out there and all of my past experience and knowledge of being an elite player came out, and I played well there. I also learned that the camera, when the camera comes on, people change, and it's pretty funny to see different personalities that would never say or do the things they say, once the camera came on. So it's pretty funny. Everybody gets really bold and chippy, as soon as that camera comes on, but when it's off and you got to throw it down and actually play some golf, things will change really quick.
You caddied for professional golfer Kamayu Johnson in the PGA Tour event at the Honda Classic. What did you attempt to teach him as a coach caddy?
Really at that point, so I was working with Kamaya for a couple of years at that point. He was starting to play pretty well. He got some exemptions, and I wasn't originally going to caddy for him. I was going to be there more as just a coach mentor and get him ready for the event. And, last second he was like, hey, I played that event. I played, that golf tournament quite a bit. He said, hey, get inside the ropes with me and just roll with me during the event. And so I think for him and myself, it was more of being a big brother mentor / instructor / friend to him. But more than anything was to let him know that there is, everyone wants to play on tour, and I don't think they understand what that means to play on tour. It's more than just the golf shots you hit. There's a lot of distractions that are around during the week. There's a lot of requests for your time. You can over practice sometimes during the week because you don't want to leave that environment, right? You've worked your whole life to get inside the ropes. Now you're on the range and there's new Pro Vs and not just new Pro Vs or whatever ball you play, the exact type. So whether you're playing a left dash or the X or just a regular Pro V1, you're practicing with those balls. You've got every rep out there trying to give you and pay you to wear certain things, to play certain things, to show up at dinner. So for me, it was more kind of trying to quiet down the noise a little bit and play, not really bodyguard for him, but just to let him know, hey, let's stick to just playing golf this week. And then once we got inside the ropes and played, again, an event where the tour is going to play at is going to play 6 to 7 to 8 to 10 shots harder than that golf course is going to play on a daily basis. And so now it was just really teaching them how to move around and why we hit to certain parts and why we hit certain shots other than just hitting those golf shots.
And he hits the ball relatively straight, doesn't it? I've seen him a couple of times. Right.
Yeah, Kamaya's ball doesn't move too well. When he's playing really well, he's hitting a little slight fade. He had he just made his first cut on the Korn Ferry Tour this past week. Had a great week. Matter of fact, I'm going to see him tomorrow. We go to A10, the A10 Championship. We leave tomorrow to Orlando, and so I'll have dinner with Kamaya tomorrow, and we'll talk about what he did really well last week. I think he shot 266s. maybe another 68 or 69. And so it was a good week for him. And I know it was a big, quote unquote monkey off of his back to make that cut for himself. And I think for a lot of people that have followed him, whether they've been supporters or naysayers or whatever it is, I think it was really big for him to finally have that breakthrough on that stage.
Do you have any hobbies?
Man, I'm a golf nerd. My hobby is golf, right? I don't do much. I mean, I come home and hang with the family after work, and I love watching sports, all type of sports. I think my fiance would. I guess she's a little sick of the Golf Channel at this point in NBA TV, but I don't do much, to be honest. I mean, I watch golf. I coach golf. I play golf. That doesn't leave much time for much else other than just kind of hanging with the fam.
What's your biggest goals and aspirations for the future?
For the future is, tomorrow. I mean, it's to win the A10 championship. Fortunately, we've had a good year this year at VCU, and so we're going to have an at-large bid to the NCAAs. And so, I guess in the near future is take care of this week, win an A10 championship, take care of the first of NCAA regionals and get through that and get to the national championship. My biggest goal is to kind of my mic drop moment is there has been players, I believe, I don't know if there's been on the men's side. I know there's some women players that have won a national championship as a player and a coach. I'm trying to do it at different levels. I've won as a player on the D1 level. I've won as a junior college coach. I've won as a Division II coach. Now there's one left to win here at the D1 level. And when I do that, I'm dropping the mic. I'm out.
Now, you're a 4-time national champion as a player and a head coach. Is that correct?
Officially, people say I'm a 4-time national champion. I won 3 national championships as a head coach and 1 as a player, but I was actually an assistant coach on a couple of national championships as well. So I tell everyone I got 7 rings.
What are some of the keys for being an excellent golf coach?
Really believing in yourself and what makes you successful, and not being afraid to change. And so, I think just like in everything in life, I don't think coaching is much different. As there's growth mindsets and there's fixed mindsets. Right? If I think that everything I do is the only way to do it, I'm probably a clown, right? And I'm probably not going to be very successful doing that. So there's things that I do that I'm very successful doing, and I keep doing those things. And the things that need to change and get better, I change and get better at. And so, that's whether I'm coaching a player, whether I'm teaching players, whether I'm doing, any kind of media stuff. I mean, there's always ways to improve and get better. So, I would say that the main thing is I trust what I know, and I'm always kind of looking to learn more and change, because players change, right? And equipment changes, and the golf ball changes, and courses change that you play. The conditions change every day, so you can't be so fixed into just coaching one style, teaching one style, playing one style. This game is a game of being adaptable. And we see some of the best players in the world. Tiger was the best at that, right? Tiger was the best at coming from the trees and making birdie, because he knew some days that's just what he had in his bag, but it wasn't, it didn't affect what the outcome was going to be. He was going to find a way to win regardless. And that's what I strive to do with my players. And fortunately and luckily enough, I've had a pretty good run at it.
Well, thank you for joining me, Andy Walker. And I think you're one of the greatest college golf coaches in modern golf, and I wish you much more success. Conversation with JC Callaway.